In the quiet town of Clearwater, life moved slowly. The church steeple rose above the rooftops, bathed in the warm glow of street lamps, a place where everyone knew your name and secrets felt impossible to hide. The Brody family seemed ordinary. Michael and Laura, proud parents, with Emma and her two sisters smiling on their living room couch, the late afternoon light spilling across their modest home. It was at church that they first met Henry, a polite man with a ready handshake and an easy laugh, accompanied by his wife and children. On that day, he seemed like any good neighbor, a familiar face in a welcoming town. Over barbecues and weekend visits, the two families grew close. Children ran through backyards, laughing. Henry seemed especially drawn to Emma, offering attention that felt innocent, even caring. Emma helped paint a half-built partition in her bedroom, proud of her work, unaware that it symbolically marked a subtle separation, a small step that went unnoticed by her family. Henry presented Emma with a small handmade gift. Her smile was bright, her trust absolute. To her, he was just another adult who cared, someone who made ordinary days feel extraordinary. In the living room, while the younger children played, Henry knelt at eye level to speak with Emma. To an outsider, it looked like friendly guidance, but something in the intensity of his gaze lingered longer than was necessary. Morning light fell through the kitchen window as Michael poured cereal and Emma braided her hair. Life was normal, or at least it seemed so, full of simple routines and family warmth. One afternoon, Henry handed Emma a small lantern, insisting it might come in handy. Her eyes widened with delight. The gesture seemed harmless, yet the intimacy of the moment planted the first seeds of influence. The families walked together down quiet streets, laughter echoing in the air. Henry's arm brushed near Emma's shoulder. To onlookers, it was friendly. To the story that was unfolding, it was the start of a dangerous familiarity. Night fell on a trampoline sleepover in the backyard. Strings of lights above flickered softly as the girls giggled. Emma's world was still innocent, though shadows were beginning to stretch longer than she realized. In the kitchen, the parents sat at the table with Henry, chatting amiably. Conversation flowed easily. Trust was building like bricks, every shared laugh cementing his position in the family's world. Hallways of the school echoed with footsteps as Emma walked between lockers, her freckled face glowing with a shy smile. Everything seemed normal until the outside world began to shift. Michael and Henry worked side by side in the small workshop, laughter echoing as sawdust floated in the sunbeams. To them, this was friendship. To the story unfolding, it was manipulation cloaked as camaraderie. A quiet picnic by a lake saw Henry teaching Emma to skip stones. The sun warmed their faces. The moment was tender, playful, and yet something unspoken lingered beneath the surface. Back in her bedroom, Emma and her sister helped finish the half-built wall. Paintbrushes in hand, they laughed. A subtle boundary had been drawn, unnoticed by the adults, shaping Emma's world in ways she couldn't yet understand. Henry leaned close to Emma in the dim light of the living room, whispering secrets meant only for her ears. Curiosity sparked. She listened, unaware of the growing intensity behind his friendly exterior. In the kitchen, Henry spoke privately with Laura. His voice was calm, persuasive. She smiled, reassured, not noticing the subtle way he drew her attention and trust away from her own instincts. Michael drove Henry along a quiet road one evening. Henry spoke urgently, feigning distress, his words carefully chosen. Michael listened, his heart softening toward the man he considered a friend. Night fell. On the trampoline, Emma stirred awake, a shadow nearby. The moonlight painted shapes, a quiet unease whispering across the scene. Something had changed, though she could not yet name it. During a day ride along the dusty trails, Henry offered Emma a small bottle. She accepted, trusting. The gesture was simple, ordinary, but it carried a weight that only he understood. Emma slept in the family's motorhome later that evening, the gentle sway of the vehicle lulling her. Alone, fully clothed, the room was quiet, but tension wrapped around the space like a shadow. Laura and Michael each found themselves in separate, intimate conversations with Henry. Each exchange was casual, warm, persuasive. allowing him to deepen his hold over the family without anyone realizing it. A small gift passed across a table, shadows stretching on the wall behind them. The moment was abstract, symbolic, and charged with silent tension. At night, Emma quietly packed a small backpack, flashlight in hand. Determination shone in her young eyes, a silent awareness of the growing complexity around her. In the living room, an empty chair and a stack of letters told a quiet story of denial. Michael and Laura read with calm faces, unable or unwilling to see the danger before them. Henry's smile was polite, controlled, with a subtle glint of intensity. A quiet menace lurked behind the polished facade, visible only if one looked closely. He handed Emma a book, promising knowledge and guidance. She took it eagerly, not realizing the deeper influence of the gesture, the invisible lines being drawn between them. In the corridor of a small motel, Henry led Emma by the shoulder. Neon light cast long shadows, creating an almost cinematic tension, hinting at the story's darker turns. Emma's eyelids were heavy, a single tear marking a moment of confusion. The room blurred softly around her, an abstract suggestion of fatigue and vulnerability. A clock ticked in the background as Michael and Laura discussed days lost. 5 days passed since small incidents had begun, their worry slow to surface, their trust unwavering. Henry's wife glanced toward him in the backyard, noticing something unusual. Her concern was quiet, polite, barely registering, a subtle hint that not all was as it seemed. Footprints led away from the motorhome at dawn, a lonely wide shot of isolation in the desert, the first whispers of disappearance hinted by empty space. Michael and Laura sat with police paperwork spread across the table, faces distant, exhausted. The weight of reality began to press, the first threads of panic threading through their thoughts. Investigators moved across the desert, examining a parked vehicle with a smashed window. Evidence markers dotted the sand, a silent story told by absence and disruption. Gloved hands carefully placed a small cloth in a bag. The scene was sterile, abstract, an indication that something had gone terribly wrong without showing it. Inside the Brody home, the TV flickered with headlines of the missing girl. Static and grain cast a documentary shadow across familiar family photos. Posters flapped on telephone poles, their paper edges fraying in the wind. Emma's absence was made real in the stillness of a small-town street. A whiteboard in a dim office showed a tangle of notes, routes, and pinned photographs. Investigators leaned in, planning, focused, as hope battled uncertainty. Emma sat in a quiet, dim room, staring at a makeshift map of stars and notes, strings connecting ideas. Her imagination became a coping mechanism, abstract and symbolic, shielding her from the tension around her. A sliver of light illuminated Emma's determined face as she gazed out a small window. Captivity was real, yet her inner strength shone through, quiet but undeniable. Searchlights swept across a motorhome in a desert clearing at sunset. The scene was tense, cinematic, filled with silent urgency. Back home, Michael and Laura embraced under the porch light. Exhaustion, fear, and uncertainty intertwined, painting a picture of helplessness. Henry stared at a map under dim light, cigarette ash in focus. His composure was fractured, obsession quietly evident in a silent, tense frame. Shadows of hands stretched across a curtain in a dark room. Emma curled into herself, abstract and symbolic, illustrating tension without action. Rows of evidence bags lined a lab bench, each carefully labeled. Cold blues and sterile light highlighted the quiet urgency of the investigation. Michael gave a statement at the police station late at night. Fluorescent lights overhead cast stark shadows on his weary face, the weight of responsibility pressing down. Emma traced letters in a small magazine photo, the distant mountain in the image becoming a symbol of hope, of a world beyond her current situation. In a motorhome, 2 coffee mugs sat on the table. Henry's hand rested near Emma, charged tension implied, a moment of silent control. Agents fanned out across the desert at sunrise, coordinating the search. The cinematic wide shot conveyed urgency and the scale of the operation. Michael hesitated over the phone, a quiet decision forming as he handed keys to someone he trusted. The moment felt ordinary, yet every ordinary choice carried unseen weight. Emma looked at Henry with conflicted eyes, holding a folded note he handed her. A silent tension hung between them, her curiosity and unease intertwined. Night again, Emma packed a small bag by the moonlight, shadows stretching across the room. Determination and fear coexisted in her posture, quietly telling the story of a young mind facing pressure. Laura and Henry spoke in the kitchen, low voices, casual gestures. A subtle undercurrent of control threaded through the conversation, invisible to anyone outside the room. The motorhome rolled along a deserted road at dawn. Emma's silhouette was framed in the window. The landscape stretched endlessly, cinematic and isolating. Press cameras flashed as Michael and Laura faced reporters. Fear and anxiety etched into their faces, the public spotlight amplifying the private turmoil within their hearts. In dim light, Emma wrote in a small notebook, tracing letters carefully, as if constructing a world she could control. Each line was a symbol of resilience and quiet defiance. Investigators placed a new pin on the caseboard. Each connection told a story, and with every marker, hope edged closer to reality. Henry stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror, fragmented by cracks. The composition suggested inner turmoil, the facade beginning to crack under pressure. Nightfall brought a tactical team to position vehicles, shadows stretching across the desert. Anticipation thrummed in the air, signaling that the moment of truth was near. Under floodlights, officers approached the motorhome. Henry stood in the doorway, hands raised. The confrontation was silent, tense, the climax of months of planning condensed into a single frame. Emma, wrapped in a blanket, sat near officials in the first light of dawn. Her face was weary but alert. Relief mingled with lingering tension, a visual story of rescue and resilience. Henry's figure was captured in a cinematic arrest frame, low light casting long shadows. His expression was hollow, stripped of the control he once wielded. Michael and Laura walked through the courthouse corridors, their faces heavy with grief and reflection. Somber hues and muted light mirrored the weight of accountability. Years later, Emma, now grown, sat for a portrait in soft, natural light. Calm and strong, her eyes reflected resilience, the trials of her youth etched into quiet wisdom. She joined a support circle of adults, hands meeting, notebooks open. Warm light bathed the room, suggesting connection and shared healing. In a studio, Emma traced letters in her journal, placing a small paper airplane atop the page. A symbolic act of release, letting go of past burdens. The sun rose along an open country road as Emma walked, calm and determined. The warm light painted a world of possibility, far from the shadows that had once consumed her. On a quiet porch, she spoke with Michael, now older, sitting a respectful distance apart. Words exchanged were measured, reflective. Healing was possible, though it carried time and patience. The screen faded to a serene horizon at sunrise. A title appeared, inspired by true events, names and locations fictionalized for dramatization. Calm typography invited reflection, leaving viewers with hope and awareness.